We're live? Okay. How about if I hold the microphone here? Is fine? Is fine? Okay, let us know in the chat room. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Daily Objective, to our second ever live episode. To get started, I could ask a small favor from the audience present here. Can you make just a little bit of noise? Yeah. All right, I said a little bit of noise. What is this, a libertarian event? All right, let's tackle. Okay, first off, a quick announcement. Sadly, today's keynote performer, Lisa Van Dam, needed to cancel, which we're very sad about. But she'll be here in London ASAP in the future. Until then, let's get into today's topic. We are going to talk about deep thoughts with an astrophysicist, and I am here with an astrophysicist, Doctor.
You're doing great.
Dr. Amanda Maxham.
Hello, it's me.
Okay. So I guess I got some notes I've been writing down as I've been traveling. I've been to Switzerland, Italy, and even Liechtenstein.
Oh, it's tiny.
Yeah. So I've got all types of thoughts. I guess let's start with this one. All right. What's everybody's biggest fear, like in life? Like, what's the scariest thing to everyone?
Either one 100-pound spider, or 101-pound spiders, or let's see what else? Oh, I know, getting separated from your spaceship if you're out in space, or your mom reading your journal.
Okay, even worse than all of those is walking in on your parents having sex.
I can think of what mine is.
Okay, no, not. Shh. We need quiet from the audience until it's time. This is not a group conversation. We've got two expert hosts here. So, but now think about this. If your
hold on, I gotta
think about it.
No,
all right,
no.
muster the thought bandwidth for this. What happens if your parents get divorced? Wouldn't you then give anything to walk in on them having sex again?
No.
All right.
I mean, like, I don't have to imagine that. Haven't you ever done that?
All right,
those are my. I want to talk about it.
Well, that was a deep thought to get us started. All right.
This is annoying. I actually studied astrophysics in order to I thought this was going to be an actual conversation.
No, this is. I was just kind of I was trying to start us off. Simple. Okay, let me ask you this: what's funny about quantum mechanics?
Okay, so there's lots of funny things about quantum mechanics. First of all, they invented a new math just to do quantum mechanics, and the math is hilarious because it's called bracket notation. So there's like brackets in order to do the math. It's like whatever, wave equations and that kind of thing. But you got to separate the two brackets from each other, and they call the first half of the bracket the bra, and the second half the ket. And so you have a whole bunch of physics professors talking about bras all the time. It's hilarious. It's number one. The second thing is that if you discover an equation, they name it after you. But the people who discover equations have really funny names, like the Lippmann-Schwinger equation. No. So I have gotten kicked out of class because the professor kept talking about the Lippmann-Schwinger equation, and I couldn't keep it together, and it's like out.
Really? This has actually happened?
Yes.
I've dealt with that my whole life, laughing uncontrollably in times and contexts where it offends people, where they get angry. So have you dealt with that other than in quantum mechanics class?
I've freaked out in school a couple of times.
Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I can. Okay, so I don't know, does anybody find this interesting?
I
But
do.
So in geology class, they make you figure out what's underneath the ground, only given the evidence of what's on top of the ground, right? And so that was like an assignment. It's like, here's the layers on top, and your job is to figure out what's underneath. And it's horrible. It's like this complicated problem. I spent hours and hours and hours on it, and I couldn't solve it. And then I came to class, and we turned them in, and then the instructor was like, oh, well, let's just look at the solutions manual to see what was actually there. And I freaked out. I was so mad because, you had the solution the entire time and you made me go through that? It's annoying.
Yeah, that sounds very upsetting.
So from then on, I always just went to the library and dug deep and found the solution and copied it.
Smart. Okay, have you ever dealt with panic and anxiety and any kind of meltdown in general?
Oh, well, yeah, I have a meltdown just about every week. But
Really?
Well, yeah, I mean, don't you?
Yeah, not every week. Like I think every night, like every early day, morning. Not a meltdown, but just like the world is not the same place when I wake up, and it's still dark out. You know, it's like it truly is like I'm not living in the same. From my interpretation, it's like not the same reality as the one here now. You know, operating, functioning in the daytime.
Well, yeah, I figure if you don't have like at least a small crisis, probably once a week, you're probably not doing it right. You're probably not pushing yourself hard, and you're not open to change. So, yeah. But I guess in terms of school, I took a lot of exams, which gives lots of people anxiety, and I've learned how to deal with that. I developed a little speech that I give myself. You want to hear it?
Yeah.
Maybe you need it. Okay. So, I tell myself 3 things. One is that I'm capable of doing the job, and it has to be true. Like I have to have studied and prepared myself. And the second is that I'm prepared to do the job. Again, has to be true in order for me to believe it. And then the third is that now all that's left is to do the job and to smile while doing it. And it takes the pressure off because it's like all I have to do now is just show up and do it.
Do you think that type of panic comes with taking on new challenges and like leaving your comfort zone? Like, is it just a part of life that you're gonna panic, kind of like from the time you're born? You're sort of born in a state of panic in a weird way, like everything new is scary or even beyond scary, just like startling?
I mean, maybe. I think if you're panicking, that's probably not, that's pretty extreme reaction. Like I wouldn't have a reaction of panic unless it was a really big change or something dramatic happen. But yeah, change is generally, it can be challenging, it can be hard. You're going along on the same path and it's easy to stay on that trajectory versus if you want to take on something new, it's going to require you to think in a new way, to grow and to learn, and that can be either painful or just difficult. And you can encounter a lot of resistance, both from the people around you, but then also from inside of yourself. And that's common. And you have to learn how to talk to yourself and how to deal with it if you want to achieve great things. Even if you want to take a test and feel good, feel competent to do that. So, yeah, it's normal, I think. But
Yeah. So, like after yesterday's live episode that we did, I felt like I just smoked crack or something. I was just like so like wired.
you have the crack here tonight.
Yeah. So yeah, it's like so I guess yeah, it comes with pushing yourself or just like taking on new challenges, not staying in your comfort zone. So it's not necessarily that you have something a hang up from childhood. It's not necessarily as students of objectivism might presume like a faulty premise that needs to be identified and corrected. And I don't mean to mock that approach because there could be a lot to it in many cases, but for me, 9 times out of 10, this is new. And I need to do this in order to be stronger, and I need to tear this muscle.
When I first started teaching, it was clear that it was something I wanted to master because I saw professors do it so well, and I had this sensation of sitting in class and thinking, I want to do that. I want to be like that. I want to be that, that amazing and competent and funny and confident in front of a classroom and convey knowledge in a way that's exciting and compelling. So I knew that I wanted to do it. I was really, really shy. And when I began, I would stand up in front of the class and all I could see, they talk about that tunnel vision, all I could see was the little spot right in front of my face because I was so afraid of doing it. And it got to the point where I had to invent a second Amanda in order to do it. Like that was my strategy. I heard on the radio about someone who was in IT, like a help desk in India, and his real name was Rajesh, but when people would call, he would say, "This is Ryan," so that the Americans would think, I don't know, he was more approachable or something. And, people are angry when they call him, and they would yell at him and say all sorts of nasty things and just be nasty to him. And he said that he would go home at the end of the day and think, but they're not mad at Rajesh, they're mad at Ryan. And Ryan works at the help desk, and Rajesh has his own thing going on, and he can leave it there. And I took that as sort of inspiration, that maybe I can be another Amanda when I'm up in front of the classroom. And that worked, and that it gave me the strength, the fortitude to get through it, and at least a place to begin. And now, I was definitely nervous before we began, and that's typical for me. But I feel like that Amanda and the real me have more or less merged, and I feel comfortable. So you can do it. You can get there.
Thank you, Rob Schneider. That's a joke if you ever saw his movies or any Adam Sandler movie from back in the day. But speaking of 90s movies, have you ever seen The Mask? You know The Mask with Jim Carrey?
Yeah, okay.
So I watched that movie a million times. It was one of my favorites. And when Jim Carrey or Stanley Ipkiss is talking to Ben Stein, the actor, plays some kind of mythology expert. And he's asking Ben Stein, like, when I go on this date with Cameron Diaz, should I go as me or should I go as the Mask? Okay. And Ben Stein said, I would suggest you go as yourself and as the Mask. You're both part of the same one beautiful person.
Yeah, I mean, that's the dream. But I want to say that that's not an easy thing. People will give you that advice, right? You're going to go out on a date, and it's your mom will say, well, just be yourself. But that's how my mom talks, by the way. Okay, so, but sorry, Mom, if she's not listening. But the thing is that that is not an easy thing just to be yourself, because do you know who you are, really? Do you know what it is that you want? And that's not an easy thing to answer, and it's not an easy thing to do either. So I don't know, that advice of just be yourself, it's not like you can just do it.
Yeah, I mean, we've done episodes, like the Thursday Collective episode about, like, is there anything good about the pickup artist movement, or is there anything that, nerdy men or inexperienced men can learn from the pickup artistry, and it might apply to some women as well. And, I was sort of the bad guy, I guess, who was saying, like, yes, you can learn something from them, from a lot of these tactics. And, of course, the answer everybody wants is, no, just be yourself. Just be yourself. Yes, of course, that is the end goal. The end goal is just being yourself will be a state of confidence. But right now, like, yourself is uncomfortable, highly insecure, and needs experience. So, if you need these devices, these sort of characters or whatever type of things you're following.
I think of it as tools of communication. Like you wouldn't tell a carpenter, just go be a carpenter, but you don't get any tools in your toolbox to do it. Of course not. If you want to interact with people in a meaningful way, you can learn those types of skills. Like, for example, one thing that I do, it's called mirroring, which is that you repeat the last 2 or 3 words of a sentence that somebody says. And it indicates, first of all, that you're listening because you've reflected exactly what somebody is saying back to them. And it gets people to talk. So it's just one tool in my toolbox that, helps me to make meaningful connections with people. And if that's your goal, yeah, you should gather all the tools and have them at your disposal. Like, you should be like Rambo with the belt and I don't know, does Rambo have?
I don't know what Rambo has.
Okay.
But yeah.
Headband,
no,
whatever.
Have your arsenal, have your arms. Paraphrasing back to people what they just said is a great device, and I'm kind of doing that now. But it's meta. I'm paraphrasing you by saying that paraphrasing is a great thing to do, right? Like it does make people feel heard. It keeps the conversation good. Meta. I mean, like I'm confirming. I'm paraphrasing back what you're saying, and what you're saying is about sort of paraphrasing.
So I just did it to you, right? I said the word meta. It's the word that you used, and I did it with genuine curiosity. And what happened is you explained more. You gave me more of what was in your head, and all I did was mirror you just a little bit. So
wow,
there it is.
There it is. And yes, ultimately, where you want to be is, quote, be yourself. That is the end goal, where it's second nature to you. And second nature, I think, reminds me of Aristotle. I've read some of his ethics. Have you? I don't need to know if you've read it, but like, are you sort of familiar with Aristotle?
I'm sorry, spaced out. You said Aristotle. Is like, okay, all right.
Okay.
One more time.
I've read a little bit of Aristotle's Ethics. Are you
Okay.
familiar, sort of, with Aristotle?
Probably not. So, tell me.
Okay, I mean, to the extent I know what he's saying, some of what he's saying is that like things should be second nature. Like I think when you behave ethically, when you follow certain principles, it becomes like that. Just becomes who you are. So in a sense, like calling it second nature, it really just becomes your nature, right? But like second nature is like I think brings to mind like just kind of almost automatically. Yeah, you sort of automatize certain actions and reflexes.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, that's sort of one of the things that's really cool about being a human being is that you don't have to be the same person that you are today. It's like you get to build your own soul, and that includes your personality, how you interact with the world, and yeah, you can change that over time. So, I mean, I don't know. It requires thought and conscious thought, and maybe implementing things again and again. But yeah, I think it's really cool that it's possible. I don't know if that's what Aristotle was saying.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what he was saying.
Can we ask him?
Right, yeah, where is he? He is around in a sense.
Okay.
He's all around us in a way.
Hello, Aristotle.
Yeah, Aristotle will never die. But yeah, so Aristotle also spoke about excitement. When he would talk about the sort of golden mean, right, like that things in moderation. I'm not an expert on Aristotle, believe it or not, but in reading some of his ethics, it seems like referring to like when people talk about the golden mean, like everything in moderation, it seems like a bit of a mistranslation to me because I think the way I read it, it seems more like he's saying everything in context, like. You don't want to be like too angry, but you also don't want to be a pushover. What you actually want to do is be appropriately angry or zealous about what's appropriate.
Yeah, so what I remember about Aristotle is that he often makes this distinction of like you can be too friendly or not friendly enough, but it's those distinctions, be careful because it's often that they're false, like neither alternative is right. And like you're saying, the right course of action is something different. It's like, no, be assertive, or I don't know what the example is, but I know that, yeah, you got to be careful about when someone gives you, don't be this or don't be that. Are those all the options, really? And
No,
why is there this scale? Is it real that there's this scale that exists between two things, or is that not real? I don't know.
Yeah, and Aristotle, from what I recall, he talks about excitement. Isn't that? And I think that word appears in other philosophies, if I recall. Excitement as in the realm of ethics. But certainly, I think I remember reading in Aristotle's Ethics, excitement. Why did that stick with me? Just because, like, to me, it's like excitement is about getting carried away. You know, getting carried away. So like, maybe your principle is a good one, but you're not entirely paying attention to what's actually happening. You're not entirely keeping the full context in mind. You're just getting really excited, and you're behaving like a zealous, dogmatic religious nut. Does any of that sort of resonate? Do you ever find yourself getting carried away and creating a narrative, and now you're like you're like dropping context?
Yeah, I mean, I think, doesn't everybody find that sometimes, that you've somehow detached yourself from what's real? And it can be because you want something so badly that you want it to be real, and so maybe you fool yourself into thinking that it is. But it's also often very difficult to tell when that's happening. But yeah, you got to act like a scientist, right? All the time. Use the scientific method, gather data, be suspicious of feelings that may not be warranted.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have no idea.
It's hard, man. Who am I? It's hard, man. Go ahead. Very good. That's my Jordan Peterson. And I think that was him talking to the Objectivists however many years ago, like talking about, like, can you even be rational? And a lot of people are like, no. And you see this over and over in philosophy, in the history of philosophy, from my sort of skimming of it, reading here and there. It just seems like over and over again we see philosophers saying, really left to your own devices, you're gonna mess up. Left to your own devices, you can't really trust yourself, so you need to turn either to God, you need to turn to the community, you need to turn to some higher calling. It is, but I mean, but it's also kind of I could sort of relate to that mindset, you know, because it is hard, and it's not always clear, you know, especially when you know growing up, it's not always clear that it's possible, really to be independent, just because of how many mistakes I would find myself making, or just how many people would, like older people would confirm, yes, I tried the independent route, I tried, you know, rational selfishness in however words they use to describe the route they took, and I've realized you got to grow up sometime and, you know, go with the program.
I don't ever want to grow up. That's what it means. Yeah, like I don't know. It's part of the journey, and it is difficult to be independent, like truly independent. And that's why one of the most important things for me to teach my students is how to think like a scientist, because that's the only way to do it, is like to take the data from reality and integrate it yourself. That's confidence, is that I looked at what was there, at the evidence, and I decided my route in life. I mean, I don't know, think about Cortez, Balboa. Do you think they knew for sure or Columbus, like, did they know where they were going when they set off? I mean, what an amazing person just to do that. And that's what it takes. Why would you want to give your mind over to anything other than, like, take the reins? It's not easy, but it's worth it.
Yeah, that's true. Very true. You know, here's another deep thought of mine. I had a head rush. And when I'm in that state where, like, you know, so for me, a head rush is first euphoria, like a squirt of euphoria, and then followed by kind of a mini crash as, you know, reality comes setting back in. And like I mentioned earlier, when I wake up, the world is not the same place as, you know, here during the daytime. It's like, it seems like it gets me to kind of question some of the objectivists. I mean, it's not like I'm questioning it on like technical grounds, but it's here's like what I would talk to a psychologist next time I get a chance to interview, let's say Gina Gorlin or whoever. When I'm getting hit with, like, okay, when I wake up, or when I'm getting this crash after a head rush, or when I'm getting off stage after a live performance and I'm super wired, I find myself, like, mentally, like, creating these narratives and sort of painting the world a certain way. So is it that, you know, philosophy shapes us, or is it like, I mean, I'm asking, is it like all these new school evolutionary psychologists say that we sort of, we get hit with emotions and sort of physical effects, and we then create a philosophy to justify that? I mean, see, I'm willing to ask that question, even at the Ayn Rand Center.
I literally have no idea. All I heard was squirt of euphoria,
And you tuned
then
out.
my brain, like, it shut down.
Wow. Okay. Well, okay, you ever find yourself in a certain mood?
Yeah, okay, so it is true that, like, your outlook on life colors everything. And you can see this pretty clearly in people, right? So if it's, like, I hate my best friend's boyfriend, and it's like everything he does, it's like, yeah, that makes him a jerk. I can't believe he gave you flowers. What a piece of whatever. But that's because that's my whole outlook on that person, right? And you can take the opposite view, like, oh, I love this guy, and then everything he does is, like, amazing, right? But you have to be careful of that, but it can also be something good in that if you have a positive outlook on life, then, yeah, the bad stuff will happen, but it won't matter so much because you'll be able to see it as just a problem. Have you ever seen the show Clarkson's Farm?
No.
Okay, so I love this show. It's Jeremy Clarkson. He did, like, Top Gear, I think. I don't know. Anyway, and he has this farm, and he's going to farm it for the first time himself, rather than having people hired to do it. And if you watch the show, I love his attitude, because there are bad things that happen, like sheep die, and he doesn't make the money, the crops, he can't plant the crops. But his attitude is like, oh, it's the problem. He's almost excited about it, that it's just something to solve, and that's what you should expect, is that life life is about problems, and that's his entire outlook. But you could take the same situation, and someone that has they're just in a foul mood all the time, those things are going to crash them every single time. So, yeah, you can color your outlook.
Yeah, I've been wondering lately if you can really ever undo a religious indoctrination when you're of a certain age. I mean, it is possible to damage people beyond repair. Would you agree with that?
It's hard for me to say. Like, I think for sure there can be things that happen to a person that are so traumatic and life-changing that, in a sense, you never get back to the person that you could have been because of it. But I don't know what that really means. Is it that you still can't have a happy life, or you can't turn it around? People are amazing in both their resilience and their ability to overcome and to change and rebuild themselves. And it may be that someone like that has a lot of work in front of them, but to say that they couldn't do it, that they're a lost cause, I don't know. I'm not sure I believe that.
No, not a lost cause, but is it possible to undo the damage? I guess, yeah, so I guess the pursuit of values, like the pursuit of things in reality is sort of a level, it's like a correcting thing. It probably affects your psychology in a way that like trains you to remember that, like, yes, values in reality exist and there's a way to pursue them rationally and with repetition and with gaining the self-esteem you get from that. Like over time, you correct maybe what was wrong. But my real kind of thing that I've been wondering about is I asked you about Aristotle. You know about Plato and his world of forms, that where the concepts are in like another dimension?
You're interested in philosophy.
Yeah.
I can tell.
Yes, and you did a podcast about, ideas in the motor of history.
I did.
Yeah, so you know a little bit. You have some interest in philosophy.
I have a small interest in philosophy, and that, I'm interested in it in that I want to use it as a tool to live my life. But honestly, I've had to read things like Hume, and all I could think about, I kept turning the pages to see how many I had left. So, in a very real sense, no, I don't like philosophy. I'm not in it for the pure philosophy. That is just not my jam. But
Yeah, it depends on the philosopher for me too. I mean, some philosophers are boring, but someone like David Hume, who I've read some of his stuff, it's because I think I see the effect of skepticism on people and the effect on the world. That makes it interesting to me to see kind of how did we get here today. So it's all about values, right? If your values relate to something, that helps. It depends on who you are and where you are in life.
I thought you were going to ask me what's the temperature at the middle of the sun or something.
Yeah.
Talking about Hume, okay.
Well, I do want to know about the temperature of the sun, but going farther back than Hume to Plato, he's got his world of forms,
Okay.
and so to him, universals, as he calls them, which I think roughly means concepts, as we use that, what we refer to as concepts are his universals, words and ideas, and to Plato, they exist perfectly in another dimension, and everything in this imperfect reality is an imperfect reflection, an imperfect shard of those perfect forms in Plato's perfect heaven. And religion definitely is influenced. Christianity, as it developed, certainly is influenced by Plato. I would say probably all religions today at this point have gotten the Platonic treatment. And I've been. Why does this matter to me? Because religion is the easy thing to discard, but untangling and identifying the premises, like altruism, the ethics of altruism, that is not as easy to get rid of as, Moses parted the sea, right? Moses parted the sea. Okay, that's not true. Moving on. But altruism equals ethics, that takes a long time for a lot of people, maybe for all people, maybe just for me in this, if we're just talking about the two of us. But then when it comes to even, on a certain way, deeper than even ethics, but just looking at the world. And instead of just seeing that they're only concretes, that there are only concretes in the world and that ideas are only here to help organize these concretes, instead treating ideas like they're primary and holding impossible perfection as the standard, the way that Plato set it up, makes me wonder, like, do I still live in Plato's heaven? Like, am I still following that standard? Does that kind of make sense at all?
You mean like you have a perfect vision of yourself or your life and you think you won't ever get there?
And impossibly perfect. Now, perfection exists. I mean, ARI just did a podcast about this the other day, like perfection is possible, but excellence and perfection in a rational context is not the same thing as what religion, I feel, planted in me and in many people.
Well, it's not, like religion doesn't give you a perfect standard, it's an unachievable one. And it's like in order to do it, you'd have to literally kill yourself. So it's already set you up for failure and for feeling bad. And that's not cool. I don't know if that's what you're talking about.
It's not cool, and that is what I'm talking about. So yeah, I mean, so this thing is, it's not easy to just discard. You know, I guess it takes time, and it takes focus, and it takes the pursuit of values in reality, I guess, to kind of train myself to undo that faulty view of the world that I do sort of see as coming from philosophy.
Yeah, it'll color everything, and it may be very deep rooted. It's like the ball of tangled yarn, and you gotta work it, and then eventually it will come undone. But yeah, could be.
Yeah. Okay. Now, what is the temperature of the sun?
Okay, so the temperature at the center of the sun, it's like 27 million degrees. You know how hot that is?
I mean, I know how much, like, I don't know, 80 degrees Fahrenheit feels, and...
Okay, so it's like, you ever get like a pizza, and it just came out of the oven, and you really want to eat the pizza, but you know it's too hot to eat it, but you're going to eat it anyway, and then you take that first bite, and it sears the roof of your mouth, and then, like, it's so bad that like, you get that flap of skin that hangs down. It's like twice as hot as that.
Wow, that's hot. All right. Well, I guess we could actually take. Do we have any super chats? I can actually. Should you read them to me? I can actually pull them up here on the internet on my phone, if that works. If we have any questions or comments, maybe nobody actually had anything to add, but. Thank you, Emily. Robert says, how much is a quantum of solace?
I think it's tiny. I don't know. I can't think of, I'm totally failing. I can't even think of a good joke.
Yeah.
You tell me how much is a quantum of solace?
I have no idea. Solace is like when you're like sad for somebody?
I think it's when you're alone and sad. So it's probably lonely plus sad. I don't know. Does anyone have a dictionary?
Yeah. Thank you, Robert. Thank you, Bonnie. And Sammy says, I'm supposed to be packing, laughing, crying emoji.
Okay. Well, get packing.
Yes, please pack.
Actually, packing is one of the worst things in the whole universe. In fact, if I have a couple of bad, like recurring bad dreams, and one of them is that it's like, I call it the infinite packing, where I've got way too much stuff that will fit in the suitcase, but I've got to go. I've got to leave for the airport or something. And so, like, I keep putting this stuff in, but there's no end to it. It's horrible.
Yeah.
You don't have that dream?
I've never had that particular dream, but I've had other types of dreams in a state of sort of panic, or there's like something impossible to do. Let's get some quiet in the audience, please. Back to the super chat. Maria says, "Can't make a scene if you don't have the green." All right.
Can't make a scene if you don't have the green. I like that.
Yeah.
What does that mean? You gotta have money.
Oh, is that from The Mask? Can't make a scene if you don't have the green, and it's from The Mask with Jim.
That's cool.
Yeah. Wow. I forgot that line, but yes, thank you. That is a memorable movie. Other than the fact that I clearly didn't remember that one line. And his dog's name was Milo, and yeah, that movie is wonderful. All right, I got a couple more deep thoughts, I guess. Do you have any more deep thoughts? If anyone in the audience has any comments on what we have discussed, or any other thoughts, deep thoughts you want to throw our way, and just kind of see where it goes, well, you're welcome to raise your hand. No hands at this time.
I had something from earlier, but I'm trying to remember what it was.
All right, well, raise your hand. Go.
Oh, yeah. Well, personally, I thought with the sun, because this one occurred to me, I thought the sun would be, like, instead of hotter than that really hot piece, like twice as hot, I thought it maybe like, maybe 1,000 times hotter, maybe.
Yeah. I think Amanda was being a comedian there.
It was funny though, right?
Science is no joke. Please do not. Yes, it was. The audience
Thank you.
loved it.
Thank you very much.
I've got another one.
Okay.
It's different to what we discussed on the stage, but I think you did very well so far. Yeah, so basically there was this thing being parodied that was like, well basically first it started with Dina McCall on Big Brother, she's a presenter, and she's saying like, I'm live on Channel 4, please do not swear, right? And then on Vogue Selector they had these different parody sketches, and one of them was parodying this Dina McCall one, and it was where, like, you are live on Channel 4, and don't say, and then she said the F word, oh bugger. And then it was like, she's saying don't say those words, but she's saying it is like, yeah, is that something they do in American culture or not, or is that more distinctly a British thing, you think?
It might be a British thing more. I remember in the Lenny Bruce movie, Lenny with Dustin Hoffman, the police arrest him for swearing and using vulgarity on stage, and the police are like taking him in the car, and they're like, how dare you say such things on stage? And Lenny Bruce says, I'm sorry, what did I say? Like he's like making, like wants the guy to say it. So yeah, anyway.
Did it work?
No, they still
I
took
think I
him to
probably
jail.
would have totally fell for that.
Yeah. One of the cops said, if you spoke that way in front of my wife and child, I'd beat you up or something. And Lenny says, I don't want any personal involvement. Yeah, it was a genius. So I was in Italy a few days ago.
Awesome.
And what do I see? What brand do I see all over? Billboards, all over stores, at the mall?
Fido Dido?
No. Nespresso.
Oh, Nespresso.
What the F is that all about? I mean, isn't Nespresso like the lazy Americans' understanding of what coffee is supposed to be?
I don't know. Maybe it's different there. It's like, they like their frappe? I don't know.
Yeah, I guess that's it. They have their frappe. They have their cappuccino. Yeah, I mean, to me, Nespresso is like, it's like an embarrassment, you know?
Oh.
It'd be like...
You'd be embarrassed to serve Nespresso?
Oh, yeah. Well,
Like-
compared to like making a cappuccino and serving it to somebody. By frothing the milk and grinding the beans and, yeah. Yes, I do. I have a coffee machine that grinds the beans. Any other questions before I talk to my co-host?
Are we talking instant coffee versus espresso? Espresso's super fancy. If you're going to talk about, coffee beans that you grind yourself at home, you have a big ass coffee.
You've touched a nerve.
Yeah.
See, well, this is good. People get really excited about their values and the things that they love.
Clearly, people's values matter to them. So I apologize to all the Nespresso fans here. Yes, Marilyn. I mean, it's Italy. That was my point. If it was like any other place, I'd say fine. Nespresso is advertising and they're selling their products here. But I would think in Italy that Nespresso would not be so popular because it's kind of like you just put the thing in and you press the button.
Well, they have the Italian version of that. Does anybody still care what solace means?
I do.
Yeah, what does solace mean?
Comfort or consolation in a time of distress or sadness. It's kind of
Aw.
It is.
Comfort in a time of sadness. Yeah,
Yeah.
so I guess quantum solace is a tiny little amount of comfort.
Yeah, it's like a quantum, I guess. So is that what quantum mechanics mean? It's like the study of like very tiny stuff?
It's tiny stuff, but quanta means that it's like there's discrete amounts of it.
You guys, seriously, I'm going to ask you to please be quiet or...
It means that there's discrete amounts of something, so that there's only ever like 1 or 2 or 3 electrons. There's never 1.5 electrons or something like that. So things come in packets. Same with photons and that kind of thing. So I think that's what quanta refers to, is that, yeah, things are in, it's like ordinal numbers versus a sliding scale of how much you could have.
Okay, and could you speak to like the view that like objectivism and quantum mechanics conflict?
Uh, I probably can't. Like, I've heard, yeah, I mean, I've heard, I used to have like a really strong view of that kind of thing where I was really excited to get to quantum mechanics class because I was like, I'm gonna figure it out. I'm gonna see where they've gone wrong. And in fact, quantum mechanics is just super boring. And so, I don't know, maybe. I can't get beyond the fact that I really don't care. And so, yeah, I mean, I think the argument is that it's detached from reality, and that is definitely something that can happen, right? Especially when you're off in math land. But math land is also a magical place. So, you know, you can learn a lot, or, you know, get a lot of hypotheses from working with mathematics. But the interpretation is important. It's you know, like, it matters how you view the math and what it means. And I think it's, you know, sometimes it doesn't mean what you think it does. But, you know, quantum mechanics is a real thing. It's proven in that people use it for all sorts of stuff. So, yeah, I mean, it's real in that sense. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe
Don't ask me.
the
Ask
interpret.
a real philosopher. I'm not-
Well, you are a real scientist, but sounds like you're, like you said, I'm not really that interested in quantum mechanics. I think we have that in common, not just lack of interest in quantum mechanics, but lack of it. Like, we care about things that, like, we care. You know, that I care about stuff that I'm interested in. It's not about like some duty to accumulate knowledge, right? Like, is that kind of something we both have about us?
Yeah, there's no duty to accumulate knowledge, I guess. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I care about the things that I care about. And I think when I was younger, I would have thought, I better have an answer to that kind of a question. And now, it's like, yeah, I can say that it's boring and be really happy with that answer because I want to spend time on the things that I actually love. And in science, it's not quantum mechanics, it's orbital mechanics. That's where I love, or that's the thing that I love. And I want to think about that, not about the stuff that doesn't interest me.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, we had a hand raised.
For those interested, Keith Lockitch, I think that was a PhD in that area. He actually did a talk on that.
Cool.
He basically said the facts behind quantum mechanics don't conflict with objectivism. Because some of the interpretations might.
Yeah.
Keep going to, like, you know, there's no other reality type of this. But
Keith is really,
I don't know if he's going to be appearing here, but
he's really smart and amazing. And I saw him, we went to graduate school at the same time. So, but he was a postdoc, so he's
So a little.
high above me.
Yeah, he was a little ahead of you in school, but you went to school together. Yeah, he will be at Ayn Rand Con coming up this weekend, so that'll be great. All right, super chats. We got Ian, thank you for that. We got Robert saying, is reality discrete or continuous?
I don't know what that means.
Neither do I. All
Is
right.
reality discrete or continuous?
George says, the sun used to be hot on page 3, but not anymore.
Changed its outfit, you know.
All right. I know those are all the super chats. All right. Was that a hand raise?
Yes.
Okay, keep it brief.
Okay, well, I thought about a deep thought. One of the deep thought I thought about was, you know, using like philosophy and objectivism to like really like improve your life and that. So it's like without it, maybe your life wouldn't be as good. But with philosophy and objectivism, you can use it to actually improve your life and improve yourself and that.
Yeah, it's true. Philosophy, objectivism can be used to make your life good.
I mean, you can. I haven't. Sometimes there are people that know a lot about. I'm talking about myself, like younger self, that I knew a lot about objectivism. I wasn't living it because I didn't know how. Like, I wasn't taking it personally, and that's what's changed for me, is that I'm taking my life more like seriously now. And so I view like objectivism as a tool. But again, it's like, I don't know, if I'm the carpenter and I'm building making the floor, like, I want the tool that's right for the job, and I'll reach for that. But in terms of, like, I'm not interested in the rest of it, at least until I need to use it.
So the way I interpret that is selfishness gets you out of that place. It gets you back kind of on the right path. Do you know what I mean, or should I like?
Yeah, selfishness?
Yeah, like the actual focus on values in reality. So like the more you don't want to be a rationalistic kook, the more you actually remember the whole point of this is to live a good life. You sort of end up fine-tuning and correcting mistakes.
I think what I mean is deeper than that. That it's, you have maybe some sort of a philosophic principle, but you take it seriously and you ask, what does this mean to me, to my life? And those are the types of questions to ask.
Yeah.
I should give an example, but I don't have one.
But that's all. I mean, that's true. I think it's relatable. Yes.
I'd love to hear Amanda talk about the orbital mechanics.
Orbital mechanics? Really?
Yes.
So why is orbital mechanics the coolest thing? Okay, so there is one law that governs the motion of planets. It's the force of gravity, or Newton's universal law of gravitation. And it says any mass attracts any other mass. It's pretty simple. It depends on, the larger the mass, the more the force of gravity. The further apart they are, the less the force of gravity. Okay, that's an easy way to put it. It's simple. But when you start, you have two things, easy. When you have three things, not so easy. When you have four or more, suddenly this like rich complexity emerges from something that's so simple. And that's why, I think that's why I love it so much. So you get interesting phenomena that happen, like chaos in the solar system, where, like asteroids that tumble in a chaotic manner, or rings that, they have areas that are swept out from the rings because they're in a certain resonance. I could talk about like, okay, so Neptune and Pluto, for example. Do you know that Neptune's and Pluto's orbit, they cross each other? And so you might think, well, wait, aren't they ever supposed to, will they hit each other at some point, right? Because it's like the two roads cross. But the answer is that they won't. They're doing this kind of gravitational dance together. So it's for every 2 times that Pluto goes around, I think Neptune goes around exactly 3 times. So it's like they know about each other and they interact. And furthermore, like Pluto's orbit is tilted so that they want to avoid each other, or they do avoid each other. Anyway, that's the kind of stuff that I get really excited about. It's from something so simple, these rich, complex, interesting details, they arise. And that's what makes me happy.
That's awesome. One other super chat. What type of, from Bonnie, what type of science classes do you teach?
I recently quit being a science teacher. So I was a professor. I used to teach physics and astronomy, so both in the lab. So I used to joke that if you want to see me electrocute myself, then you can take my lab class. And if you, whatever. So I taught physics and astronomy. And I also have a private tutoring business, which is something that I love much more than teaching in a structured way. The thing that I hate most about teaching is that I have to lay out a curriculum, which means that I have to, purposefully bring someone from where they are to where they need to be at the end of the semester in a rigorous, structured manner. And I don't like that. I want to do like improvisational teaching, where I stand up and I'm more or less, I like entertaining with the stories of science. And tutoring is, for me, a good way to do that. So I think about it as I run a physics and math emergency help desk. So people call me with all sorts of problems. It's like, I'm working on this homework, and I don't know how to do it. Or I'm in Las Vegas, and I need advice about how to gamble. I mean, it's just random stuff. And that's the thing that I love about it, is like, I don't want to know the answer going in. I want someone to bring me an interesting problem, and that I want to have that little rush of like, the nervousness of like, am I going to be able to solve it? And then, sitting down and crushing it. And that's the kind of thing that I like. So, I teach people from ages 5 to, I don't know, 85. Any subject in math and science, and occasionally other calls like writing and all sorts of stuff. It's fun, it's exciting.
It's really cool. I think I'm the same way when it comes to, I don't know, entertainment, comedy, whatever it is. Like, I like just kind of stream of consciousness stuff, you know, and that's what, like, comedy, I think, was back in the day. A lot of stand-up, like Lenny Bruce, aforementioned, and Richard Pryor. A lot of these guys, they would be on stage just following where their thoughts take them, and eventually they would suddenly have, like, some zinger that would just, like, crush. That is not what all comedian, I mean, that's not kind of how people often think of comedy. They think of, like, scripted, rehearsed, repeated, night after night, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, it's, you know, what's wrong with that? Nothing. It's just, it's not my favorite, you know, and it sounds like, I sort of see a bit of a parallel with kind of what it is that you prefer when it comes to teaching, something less predictable and repetitive, and more like specific to the situation, specific to the day.
Yeah, it's like I call it improvisational teaching. So in that way, it is the same. I get to make up the solution on the fly, and also there's a second challenge, which is that you have to interface immediately and meaningfully with all types of people. So it's people that are really, really smart, and they're there because they want you to help enhance their, you know, their deep learning, and people who are really, really struggling. And, you know, people have different challenges and different personalities, and that's part of the excitement, is can I connect with anybody who calls me in a meaningful way? And I love that. So, yeah.
Yeah, all right. One last question. Apollo, aptly named, says recommendations for a telescope with a $400 budget.
I have a telescope. It's in the basement of my parents' house. You can have it.
That's nice. You can claim that prize. Obviously, shipping is covered by ARCUK. That goes without saying. Wow, Rozzy does not look amused back there. Some things we don't joke about. All right, everybody. Hey, I really appreciate everybody being here tonight in person. Give yourselves a round of applause, if you will. And thank you for watching at home, and thank you, Amanda. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks, Rucka.
Awesome. And we got matching Doc Martens, looks like. Very cool. See, with all of our differences, some things we have in common. All right, everybody. Coming up tomorrow, it's the Daily Objective live in person again. If you're anywhere near London, 6 p.m. at David Game College. And then tomorrow's a big day. I think we got, I'm going to be up here with Claire Fox, who's like an actual like sitting politician. Like, what is my life? I'm talking to a professor one day, a sitting British politician the next day, and then, of course, a big Yaron Brook and Andrew Doyle, a.k.a. Tatiana McGrath, discussion on art in the age of wokeness. You're going to want to be here tomorrow. All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. And goodbye.